Hello everyone, welcome to 1.5 multiplication patterns. This is a really important one. We're going to go ahead and get into it. That's the essential question. How can you use a basic fact and a pattern to multiply by a two-digit number? The steps that you're going to need to write down, which you might as well do right now, is use your multiplication facts and count the zeros. We'll talk about those steps. There's really no terms or definitions. There's only examples. So we're going to go ahead and get to the examples. This will probably be a very short video, but you will need to pause, such as right now, pause, because I'm going to move on. So if you need to write the essential question and rules, take a second and pause. So hopefully you've paused. Let's go ahead and get to example 5. Actually, we won't do example 5. Sorry, we'll do example number 1. We have 7 examples today, so we will not do example 5. We'll do example 1. So let's go ahead and get to the first example. All right. So once again, you have the rules. Step 1 is use your multiplication facts, and step 2 is count the zeros. So let's say I ask you, okay, in example 1, let's say we have 300 times 20. Now, when you see numbers like this that end in zeros, you want to just, first off, be happy, because that means that the zeros, all you have to do is add them on at the end. Secondly, you just want to focus on the whole numbers. So when I say use your multiplication facts for these whole numbers. What do we have? 3 and 2. All right, so let's pretend the zeros don't exist, and let's just do 3 times 2. And 3 times 2 is 6. Now, step 2 is count the zeros. Well, how many zeros do we have here? 1, 2, 3. Those are the zeros you're going to add. So 300 times 20, there's 3 zeros, okay? So it's the same as 3 times 6, but you add those 3 zeros. And the answer is 6,000. Okay? Once again, you use your multiplication facts. So this was step 1, use your multiplication facts. Then step 2 is count the zeros, okay? And then, yeah, all you have to do is solve then, all right? 3 times 2 is 6, because those are all whole numbers. And those 3 zeros mean they have to be tacked on at the back of the problem, at the end of the problem. So that's why we have these zeros right here. All right, let's go ahead and do example number 2. Very similar, okay? Let's say we have 50 times 8,000. Well, step 1, multiplication facts. And if you don't know your multiplication facts, you need to be practicing those every single day, because they are so important, and it's 5th grade. You should know them by now. If you don't, that's okay, but you got to practice them, or this is going to be a lot harder than it should. So our multiplication facts, we got the whole numbers here, 5 and 8. So I'm going to do 5 times 8. 5 times 8 equals 40. Now, count the zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 zeros. So our answer is 40 plus the 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 400,000. Okay? You still have that 40, which is right here, but you have to add the 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that makes it 400,000. All right? Example number 3. Let's get to it. Let's say we have, okay, I'm going to ask you to find the pattern. So 6 times 5 equals 30. 6 times 5 times 10 to the first equals 300. And what I want you to do right now is I'm going to quiz you, okay? I want you to find the answer, okay? So what's 6 times 5 times 10 to the second power? Okay, if 6 times 5 times 10 to the first power is 300, what do you think 6 times 5 times 10 to the second power is going to be? Take a second and pause and think, I wonder what it's going to be. And guess. Well, 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 5 times 10, which is 10 to the first power, is 300. 6 times 5 times 10 to the second power is going to be 3,000. Hopefully, you're seeing a pattern here. Okay, 6 times 5 times 10 to the third power. Take a second, pause, and think, what might that be? Hopefully you guessed right. It is 30,000. And by now you should be noticing a pattern. First, when you have the whole numbers, you get 30. But as you increase by 10, what happens? The zeros increase as well. Okay? And we're going to look at that once again in example number 4. Okay, so here's example number 4. 3 times 7 equals 21. 3 times 7 times 10 to the first power equals, take a second and guess. Okay, 210. And pause if you need more time. 3 times 7 times 10 to the second power. I wonder what that's going to be. Well, it's going to be 21 plus the 2 zeros. Because by now you should have figured out this exponent's going to tell you how many zeros you need to tack on the end, or add on the end. Okay? Now, 3 times 7 times 10 to the third power, which is the same as 3 times 7 times 1,000, just like this second one right here was the same as 3 times 7 times 100. Okay? Take a second and figure that out. What's 3 times 7 times 10 to the third power? Well, it's going to be 21,000, because we have to add the 3 zeros. Okay? And that's example number 4. All right, let's go ahead and let's look at example number 5. Okay? Hopefully this works. Yes, it does. Great. So, example number 5. Go ahead and write down all 3 examples. That way I don't have to come back to this. All right, save some time. Next, example number 5. Example number 6. Pause if you need to. And example number 7. Okay? I'll reread those, but pause and write those down right now. Okay? Give some space between each one, because we're going to have to work it out. Okay? So there's, 5 and 6 right there. Pause. Okay? Hopefully you've paused. Example 7 right there. Pause. All right. So hopefully you've paused on all of them. Let's go ahead and get back into this, and let's look at example number 5. So if you read example number 5 with me, it says, Yosemite National Park has 2 times 10 to the third power visitors per day. How many visitors do they get in a week? So the equation they give us is 2 times 10 to the third power. Okay? Which is also the same as 2 times 10 plus those 3 zeros. 10,000. So I'm going to, and then it says how many do they get in a week? Well, whatever this answer is, you're going to have to multiply it times 7. So you can do this a couple ways. You can use the commutative property to say 2 times 7 times 10 to the third power. Or you can just solve 2 times 10 to the third power and then multiply 7 at the end. I'm going to do it this way because I think it's easier. 2 times 7 is 14, and 14 times 10 to the third power. Well, 14 times 1, right, because look at the whole numbers, is 14. The third power tells us that it's going to be 3 zeros. So our answer is 14,000. Once again, I looked at the whole numbers. 14 and 1. 14 times 1 is 14. This 3 tells me, hey, you need to add 3 zeros to that problem. Because that's not just 10, that's 10,000. So 14 times 10,000 is 14,000. All right. Number 6, example number 6 says, Jenny studied a bee that is 30 millimeters long. If she uses a magnifying glass to magnify the bee by 4 times 10 to the second power, how long will the bee appear to be? So you have 4 times 10 to the second power, and they say you have to, and then you have to multiply that times 30. Okay, so it's a lot like the previous problem. I'm not going to use commutative property on this one because I think this is fine by itself. I'm just going to multiply 4 times 10 to the second power. So 4 times 10 to the second power is the same as 4 times 1, which is 4. And the 2 tells us we have to add 2 zeros. So 400. Now 400 times 30, just as easy. Look at the whole numbers. 3 and 4, 12. And how many zeros are there? 3. 12,000. Okay, so 12,000, and I'm going to put millimeters. That should actually be added onto my problem. 12,000 millimeters. All right, let's go ahead and look at example number 7. It says if the average person loses 8 times 10 to the first power strands of hair a day, how many strands would they lose in 9 days. So you got to multiply that by 9. Well, I know 8 times 10 to the first power is the same as 8 times 10, which is 80. And now I'm going to multiply 80 times 9, which 8 times 9 is 72. You get the 1 0 that you need to add, 720 strands. So, once again, look at the whole numbers and multiply them. Then count the zeros, all right? Or look at the exponent, because I'll tell you how many zeros you need to add to the end of your answer. All right, guys, thank you for watching. If you have questions, please write them down and ask me tomorrow. Have a good one.